All right, let's talk about how we learn. I mean, really learn. We're going to dive into a method you've used like a million times, probably without even thinking about it. So let's jump right in.
I mean, come on, you've been there, right? Stuck on a super tough video game level. You're just mashing buttons, trying every possible move, dying over and over. And then, bam, something clicks. You finally figure it out. Well, that whole process, the trying, the failing, the trying again, it actually has a name. Yep, you are using trial and error. And believe me, it's not just for gaming. It's a super fundamental way our brains actually level up and learn new stuff.
So what is it really? It's pretty straightforward. You've got a problem, right? You just throw a bunch of solutions at it, see what sticks. The stuff that doesn't work, you toss it. The thing that does work, you keep it. Simple, but incredibly powerful.
Okay, so who was the person who looked at this and thought, hey, I should probably study this? Who actually figured this whole thing out? Let's meet the guy who took this idea from just common sense and turned it into actual science.
Meet Edward L. Thorndike. We're talking way back, around the turn of the 20th century. Thorndike wasn't content to just philosophize about learning. No way. He wanted to get his hands dirty. He was one of the first people to really study learning with, actual experiments to figure out how we form habits. His big theory was called connectionism. Sounds kind of technical, but the idea is simple. He said learning is all about creating a link or a bond in your brain between a stimulus, that's the S, and a response, the R. Think of a stimulus like seeing a problem, and the response is what you do about it. The stronger that SR bond, the faster you react the next time you see that same problem.
But hey, a theory is just a bunch of words without some proof, right? And this is where the story gets really good. To test his idea, Thorndike came up with a genius experiment. All it took was a simple wooden box and a few hungry cats.
He called it the puzzle box. Here's the setup. He'd pop a hungry cat inside this box, and just outside, where the cat could see and smell it, was a tasty piece of fish. The catch? The door was locked. To get out and get the fish, the cat had to figure out how to work a latch, maybe pull a string or step on a pedal.
So what do you think happened? The first time in, the cat basically freaked out. I mean, it's clawing, it's biting, it's trying to squeeze through the bars, total chaos. And then, completely by accident, it bumps the lever. The door swings open. Sweet, fishy freedom. But Thorndike wasn't done. He'd put the cat right back in and start the timer all over again. And again, and again.
And this is the absolute key to the whole thing. The cat never had a big aha moment. It didn't sit there and think, if I pull this string. No, what happened was its escape time got a little faster each time, just a little bit. The random, useless actions started to disappear, and the one correct action, hitting that lever, got stamped into its brain. Learning wasn't a flash of insight. It was gradual.
Okay, so, based on watching these cats over and over, Thorndike came up with 3 laws of learning. You can think of these as the rule book for how our brains build those connections we talked about earlier.
First up is the law of readiness. This is super intuitive. It just means you learn way better when you're actually ready and willing to learn. When you're motivated. If you're not in the right headspace, trying to learn something is just frustrating, right? For everyone involved.
Law number 2, the law of exercise. You already know this one. It's basically practice makes perfect. Or, use it or lose it. The more you do something, the stronger that mental link gets. Stop doing it for a while, that link gets weak. It's literally why you have to do drills in sports, or why you forget how to play that song on the guitar if you don't touch it for 6 months.
And that brings us to the third law, and honestly, this is the big one. The law of effect. This is the real engine of learning. All it says is that any action that leads to a good outcome is more likely to happen again, and any action that leads to a bad outcome, or just nothing, it's less likely to be repeated. It just kind of fades away.
Yeah, I love this quote from the man himself. It just puts it so perfectly. The consequences, good or bad, are what strengthen or weaken our behaviors. This one idea, man, it set the stage for so much of what we know about psychology today.
So, a 100-year-old cat experiment. Kind of cool, but so what? Why should you care? Well, because these ideas aren't just stuck in a lab. They are literally all around us, every single day. Think about it. In school, a good grade, a sticker, even just praise from a teacher, that's the law of effect, plain and simple. Training your dog, when you give him a treat for sitting, you're using the law of effect. Even at home, when you make that awesome pasta dish again because it was so good the first time, Yep, law of effect. And all that time you spend practicing an instrument or a sport, that's the law of exercise, building those strong connections.
And his impact didn't stop there. It's a huge deal in psychology. Thorndike's work, especially the law of effect, directly paved the way for another giant in the field, B.F. Skinner. Skinner basically took this idea and ran with it, creating his whole theory of operant conditioning, which is all about how rewards and punishments shape who we are.
So there you have it, a powerful theory of learning that started with some hungry cats in boxes. Let's do a super quick wrap-up of the main points.
Here's what you really need to remember. 1. A lot of learning is just plain old trial and error. 2. Edward Thorndike was the guy who proved it with his famous puzzle box experiment. 3. It all follows 3 simple laws: readiness, exercise, and effect. And 4, the most important of all, the law of effect. Rewards are what really drive learning forward.
But that leaves us with a really interesting question, doesn't it? If rewards are so incredibly powerful, what about all the stuff we learn when there's no obvious reward? You know, when we learn something just because we're curious or because it's fun. What's going on there? Just something to chew on. Thanks for tuning in.